My fiancée said, "I'm canceling the wedding. I'm in love with the wedding planner." I replied, "I understand." Then I called the wedding planner's company and told him everything. He was fired instantly. When both of them showed up at my apartment at 3 a.m., I'm a 32-year-old guy, and my job is basically to figure out why buildings and bridges fall down. I'm a structural engineer. I spend my days looking at stress points, load capacities, and material fatigue. It's all about predicting the breaking point. I just never thought I'd have to use that skill set on my own life. So, picture this. My fiancé and I are 6 weeks away from our wedding. This wasn't just any wedding. It was a massive event entirely bankrolled by her father, a guy who thinks a receipt is a love letter. We're in my apartment, which she always had felt like a stylish prison. Try to figure out which of her cousins we could stick at the table farthest from a bar. Out of nowhere, she says it without even looking at me. I'm canceling the wedding. I just sort of waited for the rest of the sentence. My brain immediately started crunching numbers. The venue deposit was gone. The caterer's fee was locked in. It was, from a purely financial perspective, a terrible time for a catastrophic failure. "Okay," I said. "Any particular reason?" She finally met my eyes, and they were just blank. I'm in love with the wedding planner. The wedding planner. A guy named... Well, let's not use names. Let's call him Mr. Synergy. He was one of those guys with teeth so white they looked like a special effect, who could talk for 10 minutes about the emotional texture of a centerpiece. I'd only met him a handful of times. Seemed like he was good at his job. Turns out he was a little too good. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. My brain just processed it like a failed stress test. The foundation was cracked beyond repair. You don't patch that up. You condemn the structure. I understand, I said. It was the only thing that made sense. What was I supposed to do? Argue her back into loving me? That's not how physics works. My calm reaction seemed to tick her off. That's all you have to say. I understand. The entire point of this was a mutual commitment. I told her, "You've just told me the core assumption is false. To go forward would be illogical. So, yeah, I understand." She was probably hoping for a big dramatic scene. I guess I robbed her of that. She just said, "I'll get my things this weekend," and walked out. 5 years gone. A project canceled. I gave myself 10 minutes. I sat on my couch and just let the reality of it sink in. It was a clean snap, a total system failure. Then I picked up my phone. I didn't call my mom or my best friend. I looked up the corporate office for Elysian Events, Mr. Synergy's employer. I got routed to HR, to a woman with a very no-nonsense voice. I explained the situation calmly, told her who I was, my wedding date, and that my fiancée had just called everything off because she was having an affair with their employee, our planner. I made sure to mention that, according to my ex, this had been going on for months, all while he was helping us plan a ridiculously expensive wedding. The silence on the other end was heavy. Then, a sharp intake of breath. "Sir, I am so sorry. Our company has an absolutely ironclad, zero-tolerance policy on this. It is immediate ground for termination. Are you absolutely certain?" "I'm just telling you what she told me 20 minutes ago," I said. "I figured you should know who you have representing your brand." I could hear her typing like her keyboard had personally offended her. "Thank you for this information. We will be handling this." Immediately, I hung up, went to my list of wedding vendors, and started drafting cancellation emails. Practical steps for a practical problem. But I knew the real mess, the human element, was still on its way. It arrived at 3:17 a.m. A frantic banging on my door woke me up. I didn't even have to look through the peephole. It was my ex-fiancé, looking wrecked, and next to her was Mr. Synergy himself, looking like he'd just seen a ghost. His perfect hair was all messed up. I opened the door, and she immediately started screaming. "What did you do?" "He lost his job. They fired him because of you." I looked past her at the planner. "They're threatening to sue me," he croaked. "Breach of contract, reputational damage. They said I was a liability." "You were," I said flatly. "You broke company policy and your professional code of conduct. Getting fired isn't something I did to you. It's the direct consequence of your own actions. That's when her whole vibe changed. The anger evaporated and was replaced by pure, cold panic. This was the real reason they were here. It was never about his job. It was always about the money. "You have to fix this," she said, her voice dropping low. "My father is going to lose his mind. He's already paid over $200,000 in non-refundable deposits. He'll cut me off completely." I just stared at her, letting the silence hang in the air. "We need you to talk to him," she went on, trying to sound reasonable. "Tell him it was mutual. We just grew apart. No one's fault. That way, he won't be as angry. He'll still support me." The nerve of it was breathtaking. She wasn't just asking me to lie. She was asking me to help her and her new boyfriend defraud her own father. They wanted to take the money meant for our wedding and use it as a startup fund for their new life together. "So let me get this straight," I said, my voice dangerously quiet. "You cheat on me and our engagement, and then show up at my door in the middle of the night with your affair partner to ask me to lie to your dad so you can run off with his money. Is that a fair summary?" The planner actually had the decency to look ashamed. She didn't. "It's not fraud. It's my money, basically. It's my inheritance. You have no right to interfere with my family." I wasn't interfering. I shot back. "I was a participant in a wedding you two turned into a sham. You brought me into this the moment you started sneaking around." Then he started begging. "Please, man, I have nothing. I lost my career tonight. If her dad's lawyers come after me, I'm done for." "Should have thought of that before," I said, and moved to close the door. She jammed her foot in the opening, her face twisting into a nasty snarl. "If you tell him the truth, I swear I will ruin you. I'll tell everyone you were cold, emotionally abusive, that you pushed me into this. Everyone will take my side. You'll be the bad guy." That was the moment, the threat. It clarified everything. I wasn't just dealing with a cheater. I was dealing with a pair of entitled predators who thought they could bully their way out of any consequence. And I decided, right then, that I wasn't just going to let them face the consequences. I was going to architect them. Before they had arrived, on a hunch, I'd looked up the recording laws in my state. One-party consent. My phone had been recording audio from my pocket since I opened the door. "I actually have a meeting scheduled with your father for 9 tomorrow morning." I said, my voice level. "We need to discuss the vendor contracts. I'm sure he'll be interested to hear your side of the story. You might want to spend the next few hours rehearsing." I shut the door on her sputtering. Rage and locked it. Her screams from the hallway were just noise. I walked over to my desk, opened my laptop, and attached the audio file of our little 3 a.m. conversation to a new email. The subject line was urgent, regarding the wedding. I sent it to my now former father-in-law. Then I added a short message. "This is a recording of the conversation I just had with your daughter. I think you should hear it before our meeting tomorrow. I'll bring the coffee." My revenge wasn't going to be a messy explosion. It was going to be a controlled demolition, planned and executed perfection. I met him at a quiet cafe the next morning. He looked like he hadn't slept. He was a tough, old-school businessman, but his eyes were haunted. He just slid a tablet across the table to me. On the screen was an email he'd already sent to his lawyer, with the audio file I'd sent him attached. "Is it all true?" he asked, his voice rough. "Yes," I said, every word. He just shook his head, not in sadness, but in a slow-burning fury. "The entitlement," he muttered, "to think she could, and with him, while I'm writing checks." He looked me straight in the eye. "She threatened you, said she'd ruin your reputation." "She did." "That's not going to happen," he said, his voice turning to ice. "My lawyers are already drafting the civil complaint. We're going after both of them for every single non-refundable dollar. We're filing it under fraudulent inducement. They entered into this arrangement under false pretenses with the intent to deceive for financial gain. That recording is Exhibit A. I thought that was it, but he wasn't done. He made a call right there at the table. It was to the CEO of Elysian Events. Turns out his company was one of their biggest corporate clients. He calmly explained that he was pulling all of his business, effective immediately. due to the gross misconduct of their employee and the subsequent damage to his family. He then suggested that it would be in their best interest to cooperate fully with his lawyers and provide any and all records pertaining to Mr. Synergy, including his history of client interactions. The message was clear: help us bury him, or we'll bury you. That's when I decided to take it a step further. An engineer's mind hates unsolved problems. The planner's desperation seemed a little too practiced. I had a feeling this wasn't his first rodeo, so I started digging. I spent the weekend going through online wedding forums, review sites, anything I could find. I searched for his name, his company, and keywords like canceled wedding affair and deposit. For a day, nothing. Then I found it. A post from 2 years ago on a private bride-to-be forum. A heartbroken mother described how her daughter's wedding was called off at the last minute. The details were eerily similar. A wealthy family, a charismatic wedding planner, and a daughter who suddenly fell in love and ended the engagement. The mother suspected something was wrong, but couldn't prove it. The planner's name wasn't mentioned, but the company was Elysian Events, and the time frame matched his employment. I took a shot in the dark and messaged the mother who wrote the post. I gave her a brief, professional rundown of my situation and asked if the planner's description matched the man from her daughter's wedding. She responded within an hour. She sent me a picture. It was him, Mr. Synergy. She explained that they were too embarrassed and heartbroken to pursue it legally. They just wanted to move on. But hearing my story, knowing he'd done it again, changed things. She was furious. I connected her with my ex-father-in-law's lawyer. Her story, combined with ours, established a clear pattern of predatory behavior. He wasn't a lovesick fool. He was a con artist who targeted wealthy families, seduced the daughters, and manipulated them into blowing up their own lives. My ex wasn't his great love. She was just his latest mark. The lawsuit went from a simple dispute over money to something much bigger. Armed with 2 credible accusations, the lawyer sent a new demand letter to Elysian Events, who, facing a massive scandal and the loss of a huge client, folded completely. They fired him for cause, voiding any severance, and handed over his entire employment file. He was professionally radioactive overnight. My ex-father-in-law also made a few calls, ensuring that no one in the city's event planning community would touch him with a 10-foot pole. The fallout for my ex was brutal. Her father cut her off, not just from wedding money, but from everything. Her credit card were canceled. Her car was repossessed. It was in his name, and he told her she was on her own. The civil suit named her and the planner as co-defendants, meaning they were both on the hook for the full $200,000 plus. He was broke, and she had no income. They were ruined. I got texts and voicemail for weeks. First they were angry, then pleading, then just pathetic. They tried to use her mother as a go-between, but my ex-FIL stood firm. He told his wife that their daughter had made her choice, and now she had to live with it. It's over now. The legal battle will drag on, but they've already lost. My ex and the planner are apparently living in a tiny apartment, drowning in debt and legal fees. I dodged a bullet the size of a cannonball. Sometimes, a total structural collapse is the best thing that can happen. It clears the board and lets you build something new, and something stronger from the ground up.